The save game object is a custom object inside of Unreal Engine, and it allows us to easily store and load data, and we can run some custom blueprint code if we'd like to. Let's go ahead and take a look at that save game object and how we might start working with it. The first thing we're going to want to do is create a save game object. So inside of our content browser, we can right click and choose Blueprint class. Now we're going to want the save game as the parent class, so we can search for it under all classes here. And we can choose save game as the parent class. I'm going to select it, and I'll name our save game object sg_basic. And this is our save game that we're going to be working with. Let's go ahead and double click to open it up. And you'll notice the basic layout of a blueprint because this is a blueprint. The save game object, the save game blueprint, is a special class that allows us to easily save and load variables that we have assigned and set up inside of here. So I can go ahead and create a new variable, and I could name this player health, for example. And if I want to save out this save game object, it's going to save out the current value that player health is set to. Now I might want to change this to something else. You can see here we have our basic types, and that's something important to note. I could change this to integer, and my player health would save out an integer. Maybe it's set to 50, for example. But if I was to change this to something else, let's say, for example, I look for character, and I want to save this out as a reference to a character I have in my level, maybe my main character, and then store all of his information. It's not going to work. That's going to be an object reference. It's going to be an instance object or something that physically exists inside of our world, and it's not going to be able to save that out. We can only save out our basic types. We can save out things like sets and maps and arrays as long as they contain those basic types, but we can't save out actual instances of objects, and that's important to note. Save out the data, not the actual item itself. Now, because this is a blueprint, we have the ability to work with blueprints inside of it. So, for example, we could create custom events, or there are nodes specifically designed to work with blueprints. Let's take a look at some of those. If I search for save game in my blueprint menu, we can find we have a couple nodes here. We have the ability to create a save game using the create save game object node. After it's been created, once we're working with it and we're done and we want to save it, we can save the game to slot. Or if we want to load it up once we start our project, we have the load game from slot. Now we might want to get rid of it later. We can delete the game in slot, or we can check and see if it does save game exist. Now you notice I've been using the word slot. The slot is basically going to be the file name that it stores this save game onto the local storage of your device. On iPhones and Windows, Mac OS, Linux, all of our different platforms, it saves it in the appropriate directory. Now there are two other nodes, the async load game from slot and the async save game to slot. These are asynchronous nodes. That means they're not going to stop your project from running when it's saving or loading. The normal save and load game from slot nodes will. It'll basically stop processing and finish that node loading or saving and then continue. If you don't want to see a stutter or a hitch when you're saving or loading, maybe you have a lot of data in the middle of a game, use your asynchronous versions, and we will look at them when we get to that point. Now that we have seen the basics, let's go ahead and put some of that into use.